Yeah, I think everything was going really well. This softest compound is very difficult to keep them alive around the lap. So yeah, sector 1 was good, and then the tires again fell away from me. From there onwards, like tiny margins. But I mean, it was cool. But then you could see George. He set his lap on a medium. So maybe they were a bit too soft for this track, and for us at least, it was a bit more difficult to extract the most out of it. I felt a bit happier on the medium, but the race is tomorrow. That's where you score the points, of course, so that's what we have to focus on. But I do think that today was a very good day for us.
Yeah, it seems that your teammate had the crash at the beginning, but with your Red Bull today, it seems that you were flying, so we have some hope for another big fight again tomorrow against the McLaren duo?
Let's see. I mean, last race was not really a fight, so I hope that we just pick up a bit of pace, have a bit more of a stable car, and then hopefully we can look after our tires a bit better.
Congratulations. Well done.
Did you know that Max Verstappen publicly admitted that Red Bull is no longer the strongest team in Formula One? But what appears to be simple self-criticism hides internal tensions, hidden strategies, and a possible radical shift in his future. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, is Verstappen losing faith in Red Bull? What's happening inside the team that dominated F1 for years and is now seeing McLaren steal their thunder? In this video, we'll break down Verstappen's most revealing statements following the 2025 Imola GP, the impact of the failed RB21 upgrades, and how this could mark a breaking point in his relationship with Red Bull. Max Verstappen isn't used to racing from the back. In recent years, he's become the undisputed leader of the grid, leading with authority and confidence. However, the 2025 season has begun with an unexpected twist. Red Bull's dominance, which seemed unquestionable, has been eclipsed by an unstoppable McLaren, led by Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. And this change isn't anecdotal, it's structural. To understand what's at stake, you have to look at the numbers. In the first 7 races of the year, McLaren has taken 5 wins, a statistic that at any other time would seem an improbable feat. Piastri, in particular, has found devastating consistency, while Norris has established himself as one of the most complete drivers in the paddock. Both have catapulted McLaren to the top of the championship, displacing Red Bull from a throne that seemed contractually reserved. The contrast with Red Bull is stark. The RB21, which was billed as a natural evolution of the 2024 championship car, has proven to be a difficult machine to fine-tune. Its technical weaknesses have become impossible to ignore, especially at demanding circuits like Imola. There, every tight corner, every elevation change, and every meter of track became a harsh reminder that they no longer have the best car. The performance deficit isn't just a matter of thousandths of a second in qualifying, it has extended to race management, pace on long runs, and driver confidence at key moments. And if there was any doubt about the depth of the problem, just look at the current championship standings. Verstappen arrived at Imola 32 points behind Piastri. It speaks for itself. Exactly 1 year ago, at the same stage of the calendar, Max was leading by 33 points. That's a 65-point gap in just 1 season. That kind of decline doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of a combination of mistakes, risky technical decisions that didn't work out, and a rival who has done everything right. Furthermore, the competitive environment has become much more unforgiving. There's no longer room for improvisation or slow reaction times. The teams that once chased are now setting the pace. And that pressure is beginning to be felt within Red Bull itself. The tensions are not only visible on the track, but also behind the scenes. Key engineers have left the project, and the confidence that once permeated the garage is now being replaced by difficult questions. This is the new scenario Verstappen faces: a hostile environment, an unpredictable machine, and unforgiving competition. For someone who has built his career on absolute control and surgical efficiency, this new reality can be as uncomfortable as it is dangerous. And the big question is whether he and his team are ready to rise to the challenge, or if this will be the season that marks the beginning of a new order in Formula One. As soon as qualifying ended at Imola, the rumors began to gather steam. And it wasn't just his track times that caught the attention. It was his words. It was his tone. Max Verstappen, for the first time in a long time, sounded vulnerable. He bluntly admitted that McLaren had surpassed them in every aspect. And in a world as competitive as Formula One, that kind of statement doesn't go unnoticed. It's not common to hear a three-time world champion admit that his car isn't up to par. Even less so when his team has been at the top for several consecutive years. In the paddock, those statements weren't interpreted solely as self-criticism. For many, they were the start of something bigger. A coded message, a signal directed not only at his team, but at the rest of the grid. Because when a driver like Verstappen speaks with such clarity, there's a real intention behind it. Some see it as a strategy to pressure Red Bull internally to accelerate improvements and change course before it's too late. But others, more skeptical, see a different possibility. One that until recently seemed unthinkable, that Max is leaving the door open to a team change. Ferrari's name has begun to circulate strongly in the corridors. It's not the first time it's been mentioned, but this time something is different. According to Italian media and sources close to the driver's entourage, the Scuderia would be willing to offer a historic contract. A sum of money hard to ignore, and more importantly, a technical project led by figures Max respects. The idea is not just to seduce him with figures, but to build a tailor-made team around him, just as it happened with Schumacher in his time. The goal is clear, to regain glory with Verstappen as its standard-bearer. Mercedes has also been named, although with less force. The German team is going through a reconstruction phase, but still has the financial power and technical structure to attract any driver. Toto Wolff has avoided commenting directly on Max, but has dropped phrases like, "Every top driver is welcome if they want to win with us." In F1, these messages aren't accidental. They're thrown out there hoping to provoke a reaction. At the same time, speculation is starting to emerge about internal tensions within Red Bull. The departure of key engineers like Ollie Oakes and recent disagreements between technical departments could have shaken Verstappen's confidence in the project. Max doesn't just need a fast car. He needs a stable environment, a team he fully believes in. And that, these days, isn't guaranteed. The press has also noticed the change in attitude. What was once pure confidence is now perceived as pent-up frustration. His body language, his lack of enthusiasm in interviews, and the increasing number of evasive answers indicate that something is moving behind the scenes. It's not just a matter of results. It's a matter of confidence in the path being taken. And if Verstappen doesn't believe Red Bull can turn things around anytime soon, the rumors will continue to grow. Even within the team, there is concern. Helmut Marko's statements acknowledging that they are at least 4/10 behind McLaren in race pace don't help calm the waters. Nor does the fact that updates planned for later are being brought forward. All of this indicates urgency, haste, and in Formula One, haste is rarely a good sign. Fans are also wondering if the situation is sustainable. Can a driver like Max, accustomed to winning, endure another full season at a disadvantage? Will he be willing to wait and rely on technical evolution, or is he already looking to the future with other colors in mind? The pressure on Red Bull is higher than ever. It's no longer just about maintaining the lead or scoring points. It's about survival at the top. And that, in Formula One, is a psychological battleground as intense as it is technical. Max Verstappen knows this. So does Red Bull. But what once seemed like an indestructible relationship between team and driver is now beginning to show cracks that no one dares ignore. The team arrived at Imola with a clear mission: to halt McLaren's advance and send a message to the rest of the championship. To achieve this, they went all in on the most aggressive update package of the season. Redesigned sidepods, extensive tweaks to the rear suspension, and floor modifications to improve ground effect. Changes that, on paper, promised to close the gap on their rivals. But the track told a different story. From the first practice sessions, Verstappen began reporting conflicting sensations. The instability in fast corners continued. At the Ravazza corner, he experienced oversteer. At Tosa, understeer. Two extremes that show the car's balance is still far from ideal. And when a driver of Max's caliber can't trust his car's response, the problem goes beyond the numbers on the timesheet. It becomes a mental barrier. Team principal Christian Horner tried to tone down the situation in front of the cameras. He spoke of McLaren's quality, praised Piastri for his pole position, and reminded everyone that this is a marathon, not a sprint. But those words fail to hide the obvious. The RB21 isn't performing as expected. And what's worse, Max himself no longer seems convinced that solutions will arrive in time. Behind the microphones, the atmosphere is different. Voices close to the team have confirmed that frustration has crept into the technical meetings. The fact that the decision was made to bring forward the next package of improvements, initially scheduled for Silverstone, reveals a change in strategy driven by urgency. It's not a planned decision. It's a reaction forced by the need to stay competitive. Among the engineers, that pressure is already wearing thin. And Verstappen, accustomed to always being in control, now finds himself in uncharted territory. For the first time since taking on the role of absolute leader at Red Bull, his words no longer dictate the course with authority, but rather seem to seek answers. His most talked about phrase at Imola, "Even with the improvements, we need a miracle to win here," wasn't just a lament. It was a multi-layered statement, a way of making it clear that, from his perspective, the team isn't living up to expectations. That statement can have more than one interpretation. For some, it's simply honesty, a show of maturity, of cool analysis in the midst of a storm. For others, it's a subtle way of exerting pressure, not only on Red Bull, but also on the FIA. By emphasizing McLaren's technical superiority, Verstappen could be laying the groundwork for possible technical protests in the future. In Formula One, every public statement has a purpose, and Max knows exactly how to use them. But playing with rhetoric also has its risks. The Italian press has already accused him of defeatism. And while that may seem irrelevant, public perception does matter. Because it affects sponsors, internal morale, and even the driver's own state of mind. The line between strategy and vulnerability is very thin. And Verstappen is walking right along it. Red Bull, for its part, still doesn't seem to have a definitive answer. The updates have been brave, yes. Technically complex, but they haven't been enough. The RB21 is still a fast car in ideal conditions, but too sensitive to changes. On demanding tracks like Imola, that sensitivity becomes a curse. And meanwhile, McLaren continues to execute perfectly. That puts even more pressure on Red Bull. Because they must not only improve their car, they must do so faster than McLaren continues to evolve theirs. It's a race against time, and Max knows it. That anxiety is starting to show. Verstappen's body language at Imola spoke volumes. Arms crossed, aloof stare, short answers. These aren't the gestures of someone comfortable with the situation. They're signs of someone who feels like time is running out. And when a driver with his temperament starts to show frustration, the team has to act before that tension turns into a rupture. When we talk about Max Verstappen, we're not talking about just another driver. We're talking about a sporting phenomenon, a figure who redefines the impact of a competitor on a team. Therefore, considering his departure from Red Bull isn't simply a market move. It's a potential complete reconfiguration of the Formula One landscape. And the consequences of such a move would be profound, immediate, and possibly irreversible for all involved. First, we should consider what he would be leaving behind. If Max decided to leave Red Bull, the team would lose not only its star driver, but also the main pillar of its competitive project. His driving style, his ability to maximize performance, even when the car isn't in optimal condition, his experience under high pressure. All of this isn't easily replaced. And above all, his presence is a magnet for sponsors, media, and audiences. A Red Bull without Verstappen would have to reinvent its identity, and that takes time. Time that, in a championship as tight as the current one, can't be allowed. But it's not just about what Red Bull would lose. It's about what the new team that takes him over would gain. Imagine for a moment Max Verstappen dressed in red, leading Ferrari's definitive return to the top. It's not just a powerful image. It's a move with historic implications. Ferrari has spent decades searching for the driver to return them to the throne. They had opportunities with Alonso, with Vettel, and now with Leclerc and Sainz. But no cycle has ended in a championship. Verstappen could be that missing piece, not only because of his talent, but because of the winning mentality he brings with him. And if the technical project is on track, the scenario would be explosive. In media terms, the effect would be immediate. The narrative of a three-time world champion, leaving the team that led him to glory to seek a new challenge is, in itself, enough to transform an entire season into a novel with weekly chapters. The press's attention would multiply, headlines would spread around the world, and every move would be interpreted as a sign of what's to come. F1 thrives on stories as much as on races, and this story would have all the elements to capture a mass audience. On the sporting front, A change of team could create a domino effect. Verstappen's arrival at Ferrari, Mercedes, or any other top-tier team would force a reshuffle of parts. Drivers who are currently comfortable could be displaced, and contracts that seem stable could end up being renegotiated. It would be the catalyst for a new cycle. And if Max makes that decision at a time when McLaren is consolidating its dominance, the objective would be clear: to cut them off and strike back from another technical platform. However, there is a less visible but equally powerful dimension, the psychological one. A Red Bull departure would send a clear message to the entire grid, the message that even the best know when a project has reached its ceiling. And that would affect morale within the team. The engineers who have worked for years to build a car around Max could lose their way without his presence. The mechanics, the technical staff, even the board, would face a void that would be difficult to fill. Red Bull wouldn't just lose track speed, it would lose direction. On the contrary, for Verstappen, changing teams could represent a rebirth. A new environment, new motivations, new challenges, and, above all, the possibility of winning again with a different team. That would elevate his legacy to a level reserved only for the all-time greats. Doing well at Red Bull was remarkable. Doing so with another team would be legendary. And Max knows it. That's why, even if he doesn't say it openly, the mere fact that the topic is being discussed already makes it a real possibility. The impact on the fans also cannot be ignored. The fanaticism surrounding Max Verstappen is no coincidence. His followers are loyal, passionate, and vocal, but they are also sensitive to the context. A departure from Red Bull would divide opinions, create new alliances, and completely shake up the current dynamics of support. If this move happens, it won't just be a shift in the paddock. It will also stir the excitement of millions of fans who follow each race with their hearts on their sleeves. Finally, there's a commercial dimension that many don't see, but that executives do. Brands, sponsorship, business. Verstappen generates revenue, positions brands, activates markets. Changing teams could alter contracts, open new opportunities, and close others. It's a decision not taken lightly. And at the same time, it's the kind of move that can redefine a team's value in the global market. What happens in the coming weeks could mean the difference between a season of comeback or a quiet surrender. And in the case of Red Bull and Max Verstappen, there isn't much room for further failure. The European calendar, which is already underway with Imola, poses a series of technical and strategic challenges that will test every inch of the team's ability. From Barcelona to Spa, passing through circuits like Zandvoort and the Hungaroring, each layout will demand a level of precision that Red Bull, so far, has failed to achieve with the RB21. The first point of focus will be the integration of the new package of updates. Red Bull has decided to accelerate its technical development, bringing forward improvements originally planned for the second half of the season. This includes a complete redesign of the rear wing, a reconfiguration of the cooling system, and possible tweaks to the power unit. All with one goal: to close the gap to McLaren before it's too late. But this strategy also comes with risks. Accelerating development means less testing time, less data, and more room for error. And in Formula One, a mistake at this stage of the championship can cost much more than a race. Upcoming circuits also pose contrasting realities for the RB21. On the one hand, tracks like Barcelona or Spa could play to its strengths. Long straights, fast corners, and asphalt that allows the car's power to be exploited without penalizing stability as much. But on the other hand, tracks like the Hungaroring and Zandvoort could once again expose its weaknesses. Cornering sequences, little room to correct mistakes, and critical traction at the exit of each turn. These are circuits where aerodynamic efficiency and the car's behavior in medium-speed corners will be key. And this is precisely where McLaren has taken advantage. Max Verstappen will have to deal not only with the car, but also with increasing media pressure. Every interview, every word, every gesture will be analyzed in detail. And if the RB21 doesn't show clear signs of improvement, questions about its continued presence at Red Bull will multiply. What were once rumors could become confirmed headlines, and that will directly affect the atmosphere within the team. The balance between staying calm and accelerating results will be more delicate than ever. Furthermore, there is a factor that is rarely discussed, but that could be decisive: internal wear and tear. Red Bull's technical team has worked under constant pressure in recent months. Failing at Imola, despite the enormous expectations placed on the new aerodynamic package, left its mark. Some reports already speak of tensions between departments and possible restructuring if results don't arrive soon. The talent that has sustained the team for years could begin to question its direction, and in Formula One, personnel changes are often the first symptom of a deeper decline. No less important will be the response from the rest of the grid. McLaren won't stop. Andrea Stella has already confirmed that they will continue to bring improvements to almost every European race. They're not waiting for Red Bull to react. They're building their own path, solid, seamless, and that adds extra pressure to any recovery attempt. Because even if Red Bull improves, it may not be enough if McLaren keeps raising its technical ceiling race after race. In this context, the next 2 rounds, Montreal and Monaco, can act as a kind of definitive thermometer. They are completely different scenarios, but equally demanding. One punishes a lack of traction. The other is unforgiving of even the smallest mistakes. If Red Bull doesn't show visible progress in at least one of these 2 Grands Prix, the championship narrative could be sealed sooner than anyone expected. And in that scenario, the debate won't just be about titles. It will be about continuity, about decisions, about the future. That's why every free practice session, every qualifying session, every race now has a different value. It's no longer simply about scoring points. It's about demonstrating that they can still evolve, that the technical project isn't exhausted, that Max can trust, not only in the car, but in Red Bull's long-term vision. Because if that trust is broken, if they don't see clear signs that the path is the right one, then what seems like a rough patch can turn into a foreshadowed goodbye.